Of rivers burst their banks. Tonight, red flood alerts, warnings of imminent danger, are still active on 13 rivers. The problems were worst in the valleys, where one school in Tredegar was nearly crushed by a landslip. Meanwhile, British Rail has abandoned tomorrow's timetable. Mid Glamorgan and Pontypridd in particular bore the brunt of the floods, as the emergency services battled to protect scores of homes.
The grim view of the South Wales valleys today. The third day running of heavy downpours has taken its toll, with extensive flooding throughout Mid Glamorgan. Rivers in the valleys have been on a state of red alert, leaving communications in a state of chaos. The badly swollen River Taff has been threatening residents along much of its length, with the town of Pontypridd at the centre of the alert. There's been criticism of the level of precautions, despite praise for the workers out from early morning providing sandbags for the endangered houses.
The boys are from the NRA. I've done it for us, the workmen, as I've said to you. I can't praise them enough, really I can't. They've been wonderful to us, and they both sent them down.
As you can see, the work has now been started, but I think it's come too late for maybe some of the residents down here now this morning. I think personally it's been government cutbacks and the lack of people really taking the blame for the responsibility for it. The buck has been passed back from the river authorities, Taff Ely, Mid Glamorgan County, and that's another reason I think it should, that this hasn't been done.
Later, the fears of those Pontypridd residents were confirmed, with the street among several flooded as the level of the Taff rose. It wasn't safe to park anywhere, with the town centre also affected by floodwaters. Shopping was a less than pleasurable experience, while with the emergency services at full stretch, 2 homes were evacuated as a 15-foot wall collapsed. Things were no better in nearby communities either, with roads around Hopkinstown underwater and in places road and river merged into one. The fire service was also busy in the Cynon Valley. Homes in the village of Aberamon were among those taking the brunt of the floodwaters, with several householders seeing their possessions ruined.
The place is like a river. The only way I could gain access to the house was through an upstairs window.
Through a bedroom window?
Bedroom window, yeah. And from downstairs, and of course at the bottom of the stairs you can see we've got everything up here. There's at least 10 or a foot high the water and just rushing straight through the house.
There was no sandbags and nothing here for them. They've had to struggle ever since they married. They started doing the house up now and it's just gone.
Areas further south have also been under threat. There's been widespread flooding in the north of Cardiff, and South Wales Police have tonight warned parents everywhere not to allow children near any flooded areas.
In Gwent, thousands of acres of agricultural land are under several feet of water. Flood warnings enabled farmers to move their livestock out of danger, but some corn crops are waterlogged and there are also problems with erosion and damaged fences. This was the scene at Usk, where homeowners watched anxiously as the river rose, but the town's flood barrier did its job. Not far away, one 86-year-old weather victim says her isolated cottage is flooded at least once a year, and she's still waiting for a council bungalow.
This morning it started coming in, but I did have it in the day before yesterday, in one of the rooms, but to come right through today.
So you had to move upstairs, have you?
So I moved upstairs and just come down.
Whenever there's bad weather, Frida Matthews rolls up her mats. At Newbridge, they wish they could do the same. In North Road, 3 neighbours have each lost carpets worth thousands of pounds as overloaded drains poured water into their homes. They've only just redecorated after a flood 3 years ago, and say Islwyn Council has ignored their warnings that it was bound to happen again.
Since then, we've nearly been flooded 17 times in the last 2 years. The water comes up to the front door and then goes back. We've been in touch with the council over the last 2 years, but they don't seem to do anything about the problem.
In the passage we redecorated, and the black comes up the wall now. I mean, it needs redecorating again, before we had this flood. It doesn't just finish at the clearing up. It takes, years really.
Well, last time I think the claim came to about £9,000, £10,000, and it's going to be much the same again this time. From all I can see, it's exactly the same.
And nowhere for Sarah to play today?
No, I don't know where we're going to go with her.
Does she know what's going on?
I think she'd think it's a bear there. She'd like a trunks on dive in, I think.
With a pump still working outside their homes, they say there's no point even attempting to clean up before the weather improves.
Hugh Turnbull, our reporter there. In parts of West Wales, around 3 inches of rain have fallen in the last 24 hours. Some rivers have burst their banks and many householders have had their homes flooded. Some people have had to be rehoused by relatives or friends.
Rachel Lewis is 87 and blind. The room in which she lives in Ystalyfera was flooded early this morning. Dirty water swept through the ground floor while she was asleep. She's now being looked after by neighbours.
When I came out of bed, my feet were in water. And I thought to myself, what's happened here? And I asked them please to phone Mr. and Mrs. Walsh, because they've been very kind to me. And they came in. I can't say no more to you.
What's going to happen now?
What's going to happen? Ask the ones that done this mess. What's going to happen? I don't know. That's the only thing I know. I don't want to go from my home.
Work has recently been completed outside the house, but the new pavements didn't stop today's flooding.
There's no step, there's nothing to stop the water coming into this house. It's level with the pavement. So, with all this torrential rain, nothing is to expect, is there?
At Croynant in the Dillais Valley, roads were blocked as rivers burst their banks. Mopping up began early this morning, and the fire service began pumping out flooded buildings. This garage owner will be making an insurance claim before the business has even opened.
Well, basically devastated. We've been working for the last 6 weeks trying to open the garage. It's been closed for 2 years. Spent a lot of money and time here, and we're hoping to open this weekend. We were very, very lucky that the fire service are here. As you can see, without them I think there would be much more damage. Just a matter of starting again now with a bit of luck.
The flooding produced a surge of water at Aberdillais Falls near Neath. They've recently installed turbines there to generate electricity. But ironically, there's now too much water for them to operate. No one will be paying a green fee at the International Nickel Golf Course today. Most greens and some outbuildings are underwater.
This part of Clydach in West Glamorgan was free of water just a short time ago, but in just under an hour, the water levels have risen about 7 feet.
At Llampimsaint in Dyfed, homeowners improvised to save valuable furniture. In most cases, though, floodwater won the battle, and insurance companies will be expecting claims for thousands of pounds in lost property. Across West Wales, rivers have either burst their banks or remain heavily swollen. Bridges are groaning under the weight of water, which has also spread across acres of farmland. At Bronwydd, near Carmarthen, people refused to abandon their cars as floodwater rose. While some people were determined not to be held back, others, like these youngsters, almost relished the prospect of missing school. At Carmarthen Quay, the coracle fishermen would certainly have taken a day off. Waters again are dangerously high in a town where local people don't have to think too hard to remember serious floods in the past. The River Towy has broken its banks in places, and some dams in the Gwendryth Valley are reaching their limits. People across West Wales are hoping that the rains will stop and any crisis be averted.
The heavy rain nearly caused a disaster at a school in Gwent when thousands of tons of colliery waste came crashing down into the grounds of Tregeaga Comprehensive School. Fortunately, none of the children were in the school at the time. The headmaster is now assuring parents that the school is safe and there's no chance of a further landslide.
3,000 tonnes of colliery waste came crashing down the tip which towers above Tregeaga Comprehensive School. The force of the slurry ripped up trees and everything else in its path. People living nearby say it sounded like thunder as the tip broke away. An open-air mining museum in the school grounds slowed down the slurry, stopping it just short of the school. It's believed a build-up of water in playing fields above caused the landslide.
Could have been a lot worse. As far as we can tell, it happened in the middle of the night. Caretaker came on site and we found this waiting for us. Luckily, people weren't here, and so there was no danger to anybody.
950 pupils were turned back this morning as a clear-up began and emergency channels were dug to divert the water away from the tip. The headmaster has assured parents that their children are not in any danger.
The structural engineer says that it's nothing like the situation which happened at Aberfan. It's more to do with some streamways and then erosion of the bank and then the hillside falling down.
But when 3,000 tonnes of tip slurry comes rushing into school, Aberfan must cross your mind.
Oh yes, obviously that is the foremost in anyone's mind, the security and safety of pupils. But the engineers are of the view that there is no further great danger from any episodes such as we've just had, and that it's safe to come back into the school once we've cleared up all the mess.
The caretaker, who lives in a house at the bottom of the tip, is being moved out tonight as a precaution. Pupils have been told to stay home tomorrow when a decision will be made about when the school can reopen.
Meanwhile, an emergency control room set up by South Wales Police is being inundated with calls for help as the floods swamped the region. At Force headquarters in Bridgend, officers are working around the clock to coordinate emergency services across 3 counties. This is the nerve centre of one of the biggest flood relief operations mounted in South Wales. From here, police divisions in the field, fire brigades and local authorities get the latest information on the crisis. And every few minutes brings an additional hazard. This time it's an uprooted tree sweeping down the River Ogmore.
The danger is that wherever that tree is going to stop is going to cause a blockage in the river, and the fact of any damage that it may cause to the bridges as it travels down.
The force is in a constant state of readiness to cope with flood emergencies, but this one, the most severe for 20 years, is stretching manpower resources. And with so many rivers on red alert, the worst could well happen.
Some of the areas that are actually on red alert at the moment are in residential or commercial areas. So there is always the potential. I don't want to be a harbinger of doom, but nonetheless there is always the potential for that sort of thing to happen and evacuations to take place.
The police have also set up a public helpline. It's currently dealing with 200 calls an hour from anxious motorists and householders.
Ask us about road conditions, worried about relatives, worried about pets, worried about potential flooding and the like.
How frightened are they?
Some are very frightened for obvious reasons. I mean, some have been flooded previously and are worried about it happening again.
The control centre will continue to monitor the floods until the crisis has passed, but the police expect to be on full alert at least until tomorrow. And if you need to contact South Wales Police, their flood helpline number is Bridgend 0656 766 066. That's 0656 766